Here we go, check this one out, FJ45. This one is 6 months, 1981, with a difference. I'll go right through this. Dan owns this one, and Dan is local Southeast Queensland, and Dan found it in Southeast Queensland. It is running a 304, the first of the fuel-injected Holden V8s, and what a doozy. I've got so much to talk about. I've known Dan for a bit. We have helped him here at Mr. Landcruiser. Of course, you know we do the booster upgrade, we've done that. But before that, Southeast Queensland, or Queensland, has a classic Landcruiser club. Met him on one of those runs. And now we've done a long drive for the drought together. And this vehicle's done a lot more than that. This one's been up to the Cape. Now, Dan tells me that seamless runs, virtually, the Holden engine, through the water crossings and everything. He's over the moon, and he's tweaked it. Now, this thing didn't come with that setup on the back. He's done all that himself. But let's start right up the front of this one. Since Dan's owned it, that bar work, that's a McKinnon's Cruiser off the shelf. And also from McKinnon's, he grabbed the Runver winch as well and installed that. We've also got the LED up the front. That was also Dan. So he's starting to custom it already, and then we'll slowly go underneath. Underneath, we have EFS at the moment. It's about to change. I'll talk about that later. It's got EFS suspension, 1981. 1981 didn't have disc brakes. It's got a V8. Legally, you've got to do it. So now it's running the disc brake front end, but it's also double locked. Ready for that's hence does the Cape, the long drives. She's double locked, staying underneath. Dan bought this one with just the standard fuel tank, but since then he's got a 79 series 130 litre underneath. I'll come back a little bit because he's also got 55 litres of water underneath, and set up really perfectly. Just in my hand here is the water. It's also the switches for the fuel and switches for the water. And Dan has made this really simple. Just made the front tank redundant, put a little pump on it, and if we pull this out, he just turns the pump on, feeds it into his tank. So he only needs that one fuel gauge. Simple setup, it's easy on the road. Dan can put that away himself later. And that's underneath this vehicle. So it's set up for touring, the V8 set up for touring. Now let's go and have a look at the V8 itself. Look at this, the 304. Now let's go through what Dan's done to this himself. So there's been a few changes. Right in front of me, the air filter box is custom built. It just had the pod filter there, and there's no way you're doing the Cape with the pod filter hanging out. Now Dan tells me the water was lapping over the bonnet, so he's dunked this thing. So he sealed it all up, and that's how you're going to do that. Also, over here, we have the power steer pump. There was no power steer on there, so he's gone through. It's pretty cool inside too, how it's been altered. So now it's got power steer. Mr. Landcruiser has added the double diaphragm 80 series booster, spacer, what have you, and all those parts. Now we were talking about the thermo fan, and Dan said that it's been running good. It runs good up here on the highway. I asked him sort of what temps. He tells me that the thermo fan kicks in around 92 degrees, so it never really goes higher than that. It just sits high 80s. If it does go into 92, kicks in, turns on for a little while, it cools down again. He's had no issues there, so that's really good to hear. Also, Dan done the 5-speed. So behind this was a 4-speed, and now he's upgraded, so power steer, 5-speed, disc brakes were on there. While we were on the long drive, there's some rugged terrain, and now this might have happened over a longer period of time, but he's cracked the engine mounts, and every 40 series owner drives their vehicle home. He legged it home, made sure it was safe, got home, he's addressed that now, got to Clex in time, bloody champion. He was saying that when he purchased this car, there was, it kept stalling, and he feels that might have been, the gentleman that he bought it off sort of lost interest and couldn't really diagnose it, so a process of elimination. Dan went through the electrics first, led him onto the fuel, And that led on to that second fuel tank. But once he sussed that out, he stopped stalling it at roundabouts and in traffic, and it's been running like a dream since. I think I've covered everything under here. She fits like a bloody glove. He's done a really tidy job. This is a fantastic setup. I'm really impressed. I tell you, it was purchased as an empty box to fit the tray, and you can see where the square tube goes in, so you can lift it off. Dan takes it off at home. Above my head is the rooftop tent. I'm sure he's done plenty of swagging, and we all get over that when we're doing the big tours, just to pop that tent up at night and keep rolling. On top of that is the solar power. Behind me is provisions for a spare wheel and jerry can. What we don't see back there is Dan says there's a full shower and toilet set up that all hooks up to the back for touring, and that was all there on the long drive and for the Cape. Inside's pretty impressive. Now the aim was to build it yourself. He didn't outsource the interior of this, so he's measured it up and purchased what he needs to build the interior. And on this side, we've got, it's mainly recovery gear. It's just nice deep shelves, a pair of thongs and some recovery gear. He's got it all in here. And then space on top for camping gear or what have you. That leads me to the power board. The power board's excellent. He's got it all isolated, everything going on. I could use some big words, I don't know. I need Richard for this. There's that much electrical going on. He's just done a really, really neat job. Leads to the battery inside, the lithium battery inside, and you'll find the start battery under the tray on the other side of the car. And then if we pop open the door on the other side, it's pretty cool over here. I even find this more entertaining. To our left, we got light switches, then the stand-up fridge. We've got the pull-out kitchen, and from the pull-out kitchen, we have the pull-out, well, I should say pull-out pantry, then the pull-out kitchen, chopping board. It's just set up to travel. That stuff is so easy and compact to put away every morning after breakfast and hit the road again. And that's the sort of touring that Dan and his wife do in this thing. So it's really well set up. In the back, there's just some space for hanging. It's got LED lights right throughout the top, just for night time. What can I say? He's done a bloody beautiful job of the, what do you call it? Canopy. Of the canopy. He's done a bloody beautiful job of the canopy. This is so cool in here. First glances, probably thinking, oh, just a plain old 45, but there's so much going on. It does have a fiberglass roof. Dan said, oh, I wish I had a steel one. But honestly, if I hadn't mentioned it, you would not know. There's nothing wrong with the glass roofs until you roll them, and none of us plan on rolling our vehicles and dying anytime soon. Well, since I'm talking about the top, let's stay up here. It's all carpeted, and this console isn't that very cool. Apparently it's out of 100 series, and they've grafted it in there, and that houses storage. There's light switches, UHF, and I also see the Bluetooth speaker up there for no hands phone, which leads to the reverse camera. Now it's a reverse camera because of the box on the back. Dan says that could be utilised. You don't have to just be in reverse. That actually can live permanently on while driving forward, just like you would with any normal mirror with visuals. Now the seats, I've got to talk about the seats. If it looks a little bit extra spacious in here, Dan was saying that he relocated some of the seat frame holes and put this passenger seat back 50mm for an extra legroom. And you can't tell until you sit in here, but one other thing is the adjustable 75 series column. Now that's been lifted up, so I don't know if you see me in a lot of the other walk-arounds. There's not this much room when I'm sitting in other cars. This gives the appearance that it's so much more spacious because the steering wheel's not poking in your chest, or in my case on my gut. It's so comfy. We have aircon in that one, so I went through everything: power steer, 5-speed, disc brake, bloody blah blah. It's also got the aircon, super cold. I could use it today, I tell you what. And then the cup holders. Now building 70 cup holders. We sell them here at Mr. Landcruiser. It's been extended for a Yeti, this one. Very, very cool. So that's not going to tip over on the big drives or the bumpy roads. On the dash looks clean, couple little drill holes. It don't matter, she is really clean. And I'm looking at that Alpine stereo, which has speakers in the door and the equalizer and what have you hidden under the seat. Also with the dash, we have your oil pressure and water temp gauges, aftermarket. They're nice and tucked in a good visual spot. This vehicle also has a carpet floor with sound deadener to keep it nice and cool. They get I'm sweating just sitting here doing nothing, so you get nice and warm in these cars. So this one's got all the deadener underneath. I could imagine going through the Cape, there would have been fun. That's the type of, you get into these cars, it don't really matter. You would have pulled the seats out, carpet, cleaned it, would have smelled like dead fish and tea tree oil or whatever you find up there in the Cape. Pretty much the inside of this one. I'm looking around for more, but this is an FJ45. This is what you find. Someone has taken the time to reupholster the dash crash pad. Now, honestly, you can buy brand new genuine ones. They're that expensive that this is exactly what I'll be doing to mine, is just giving it a reupholster and off you go again. Bloody lovely in here. I've even locked myself in. Yo. Future plans. So we're going to talk about the suspension, but I didn't mention the wheels are Kenda, and as Dan says, they're 32s, 33s, they're 33s plus a couple inches just to keep it legal. And we're running Sunraisers. Sunraisers look bloody good on any vehicle, any Landcruiser. I love them. That's all I have on mine. Future plans. Now Dan's actually in here today for parabolic suspension at the front, not the rear, and I'm just gonna go through it really quickly. A lot of people know Train Tamer has parabolic on the shelf now. We sell it here at Mr. Landcruiser, and I'm going to be very honest, us heavy vehicles don't like parabolic rears yet. It's only new to the market. If you've got a light vehicle, they are awesome, but some of the guys throughout the community have sussed this out even before Mr. Landcruiser. Parabolic on the front, multi-leaf on the rear, 500 kilo rated, the Train Tamer stuff. It is a bloody awesome setup. And if you come to Mr. Landcruiser, we've actually got a different setup of shocks for the rear and the front to give you that little bit more travel as well. So we've really sussed out our own personal kits, and the proof's in the pudding. We've got mates with cars over 4 tonne and they're running power fronts. Power will just sink at the back, so got the multi-leaves. So that's probably the next thing I'm going to do with mine, and chuck some paras in the front and run multi-leaves because I'm 3.8 tonne. But this is about Dan. So today Dan's in for his parabolic fronts, new shocks, and throw some bushes in it of course while he's at it. So can't wait to see how it stands, the outcome. We're going to get his feedback. But for today, this is Dan's FJ45. Boom! I nailed it.